JosephELeDoux, Anxious, Using the Brain to Understand and Treat Fear and Anxiety. Anxiety is often seen as a negative and unwanted byproduct of modern life. In Anxious, Using the Brain to Understand and Treat Fear and Anxiety, JosephELeDoux explores the origins, development, and perceptions of anxiety throughout history and delves into the many factors that contribute to our individual susceptibility to anxiety disorders. This summary will introduce you to the ways in which anxiety has changed over time, from being perceived as a normal human emotion to being associated with mental disorders. You will learn about the different classifications and diagnostic criteria for anxiety disorders, as well as gain insights into the biological and psychological mechanisms that drive our responses to threats. Additionally, you will discover the current treatments for anxiety and active coping strategies to manage the inevitable stress that life presents.
Anxiety's transformation through time. Contrary to belief, anxiety isn't exclusive to our fast-paced present, it dates back centuries as a distinctly human experience. Stemming from the Greek word ang, which means burdened or troubled, anxiety was linked to the responsibility of free choice. Existentialist philosophers, such as Kierkegaard, Heidegger, and Sartre, considered anxiety a necessary human experience. However, Freud drastically altered this view, associating anxiety with suppressed trauma and psychopathological disorders. Contemporary culture shifted anxiety's portrayal, popularizing its status as a problem to be tackled. Despite present-day discussions about anxiety, there's still confusion over what characterizes an anxiety disorder. From ancient understandings to the modern age, anxiety has been recognized as an inherent part of the human experience. Its roots trace back to ancient Greece, where the term signified being burdened or troubled. Within the New Testament, anxiety was embodied by sinners anticipating divine retribution. The notion of anxiety being essential to humanity flourished under thinkers like Kierkegaard, Heidegger, and Sartre. One of Kierkegaard's notable contributions, the concept of anxiety, posited anxiety as a byproduct of the awareness and responsibility that comes with making choices. However, this perspective on anxiety underwent a seismic shift with Freud's ideas. He postulated that anxiety arises from repressed trauma and disturbing memories, categorizing it as a central factor in numerous psychopathological disorders. In uncovering the source of anxiety and addressing the bottled-up trauma, Freud believed one could alleviate their anxious state. This redefinition turned anxiety from an innate aspect of humanity to an issue necessitating resolution. Following World War II, Freud's notion of anxiety gained traction, feeding into popular culture. Auden's The Age of Anxiety became a synonymous catchphrase, and films and songs highlighted anxiety-ridden characters and narratives. Nowadays, anxiety is a pervasive topic, generating millions of search results. However, despite the ubiquity of conversation surrounding anxiety, differentiating between an anxiety disorder and typical concerns remains unclear. The subsequent sections attempt to decipher this distinction. Evolving anxiety disorder diagnoses. Understanding the distinction between normal anxiety and an anxiety disorder requires an insight into the ever-evolving Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, DSM. Developed by the American Psychiatric Association, the DSM has gone through multiple editions, each refining and expanding the categories of anxiety-related disorders. Although criticized for its reductionist approach, the DSM helps legitimize anxiety diagnoses, granting access to mental health services and support. Anxiety disorders may arise from a combination of genetic factors, individual psychological disposition, and learned environmental experiences. Anxiety is a normal emotion, but when does it become a disorder? To unravel this question, it's crucial to dive into the diagnostic process. In the field of psychiatry, the DSM is a key tool in diagnosing anxiety-related conditions. Since its inception in the mid-20th century, it has undergone several updates, reflecting the evolving understanding of anxiety disorders. Initially, the DSM classified mental health issues into two broad categories: psychosis and neurosis. Anxiety was considered a type of neurosis, aptly named anxiety neurosis. However, the experts didn't stop there. The 1980 edition classified anxiety disorders further into generalized anxiety disorder, GAD, and panic disorders. Subsequent updates recognized even more types, such as post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and specific phobias. It's essential to realize that the diagnostic criteria for anxiety disorders are continually changing. When assessing a client, psychologists use the DSM's checklist to see if symptoms match up to establish the presence of an anxiety disorder. This system is far from perfect. Critics argue that it oversimplifies complex disorders and attaches stigmatizing labels to individuals. However, the DSM has paved the way for many to access crucial mental health care and support systems. Numerous factors make a person prone to anxiety disorders. Among these, genetic inheritance, personal psychological traits, and environmental conditioning play significant roles. Our understanding of threats, anxiety, and how it manifests into disorders continually grows as the classifications and insights evolve. Mastering our survival instincts. Wild animals, including humans, are wired with survival instincts to detect and respond to threats. When faced with danger, our sympathetic nervous system activates the fight or flight response. We learn about threats through experience, observation, and verbal instruction. Our sophisticated survival mechanisms are crucial for our safety, but can sometimes misinterpret situations as dangerous. Just like wild animals always stay alert to potential threats in their environments, humans too possess inherent survival instincts that help us navigate dangerous situations. Envision yourself confronted with an aggressive dog or an intimidating coworker. Your instinctual reactions can range from fleeing to fighting back. The core concept here is that our survival instincts have evolved to tackle and overcome various threats. When we sense danger, our body's sympathetic nervous system leaps into action. Breathing accelerates, and our heart rate increases to deliver energy to our muscles. Blood diverts from less critical parts like the gut and skin, towards muscles that need it the most during defense. The adrenal medulla also releases adrenaline, supplying us with an energy boost for fighting or escaping. The entire body works in tandem to produce a survival response. But how do we determine what constitutes a genuine threat? Our experiences primarily influence how we identify danger. For instance, if a rabbit suffers an attack by a bobcat near a specific watering hole, she will correlate not just the bobcat, but also the location as a threat. Consequently, the rabbit will act defensively near that spot, even if no imminent threat exists. In comparison to other species, humans showcase a particularly sophisticated sense of survival. Not only do we learn about danger from our own experiences, we also possess the ability to learn observationally. For example, witnessing a mugging on a dimly lit street teaches us that the location poses a potential danger. Additionally, we have the capacity to understand threats through verbal instructions, such as parents warning their children about various hazards like fires or unreliable strangers. Eventually, when children face these threats, their survival instincts are immediately activated. Our inbuilt survival mechanisms play a crucial role in keeping us alive and well prepared for challenges. However, at times, these systems can also overreact and interpret external stimuli as threats even when they aren't. It's essential to strike a balance between vigilance and mindfulness to ensure the optimal functioning of our survival instincts. Navigating anxiety's minefield. Anxiety disorders cause individuals to be hypervigilant to potential threats, leading to a constant state of high alert. This makes everyday situations feel like a minefield, filled with imagined dangers, leading to stress and avoidance behaviors. This in turn can make life extremely restrictive, as fears remain unchallenged and grow larger. Imagine the sheer terror of feeling like each step you take could trigger a hidden landmine while others around you simply see a peaceful street. That is the lived experience of those suffering from anxiety disorders, who are constantly on high alert for potential threats. Depending on the type of anxiety, whether it's a specific phobia or social anxiety, this heightened vigilance can make seemingly mundane situations feel like minefields. This hypervigilant state keeps our survival systems engaged, leading the sympathetic nervous system to release stress hormones like epinephrine and cortisol. Consequently, our bodies and minds focus intensely on identifying and reacting to potential threats. The challenge for individuals with anxiety disorders is differentiating between real and imagined dangers. This often results in disproportionate reactions to non-threatening situations, along with overestimating negative outcomes and underestimating their ability to cope. To avoid discomfort, people with anxiety disorders are likely to steer clear of potentially distressing situations. A fear of heights might lead to avoiding tall buildings, while social anxiety could result in only spending time with familiar people. Those with generalized anxiety disorder face a continuous stream of anxious thoughts without specific triggers, turning the very act of worrying into a form of avoidance, as it prevents proper examination and reality checking of one's thoughts. While avoiding anxiety triggers might offer temporary relief, it ultimately restricts an individual's life by not confronting their fears. This avoidance allows fears to grow larger and more imposing, perpetuating the cycle of anxiety. Thus, it is crucial for those grappling with anxiety disorders to find ways to face and overcome their fears, replacing the minefield with a more liberated and fulfilling life. Decoding fear and anxiety. Human brains process fear and anxiety consciously, unlike animals which exhibit responses to threats instinctively. Survival response in humans is an unconscious cognitive circuit that can be activated even without us feeling anything. However, fear and anxiety are a result of conscious cognitive processes involving our memories and sensations, piecing together stories, meanings, and reactions based on our interpretation of the world around us. A true understanding of human anxiety requires acknowledging these emotions when exploring effective treatments. Neuroscientists often study animal reactions to threats in order to better comprehend human survival mechanisms. Observing these defensive reactions, like freezing or attacking, in animals has shaped our understanding of what we call fear responses. It's essential to note that while animals act on instinct, humans process fear and anxiety consciously, exposing a critical distinction between animal reactions and human emotions. The human brain's survival response operates through instinctive, unconscious cognitive circuits. Running on autopilot, it doesn't always elicit feelings, unlike our experiences with fear and anxiety, which are generated by conscious cognitive processes. Crucial to our understanding of these emotions is the role of consciousness. It helps us interpret sensations and memories, create meaning from our experiences, and shape stories based on the world we perceive. For instance, encountering a snake sets off our defense response, but our attention and memory guide us through the sensations and bodily reactions we experience. Our semantic memory identifies the snake and recognizes it as a venomous creature. Our episodic memory then relates this threat to us personally, recalling past encounters or envisioning future consequences. Ultimately, our mind consciously labels our emotions as fear or anxiety. Hence, research focusing solely on animal experiments fails to capture the complete picture of human anxiety. The differentiation between survival responses and emotions is a key factor when developing effective treatments for anxiety, as we will discuss further in the next section. Taming anxiety with cognitive behavioral therapy. Move over Freud, because there's a new therapeutic approach in town. Cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, is changing the way we treat anxiety by addressing present behaviors and thought patterns. By using exposure therapy and challenging catastrophic thinking, CBT encourages individuals to confront their fears and replace negative associations with more neutral ones. Gone are the days of Freud-inspired psychoanalysis, where therapists delve deep into a patient's past to uncover the root of psychological problems. Today, cognitive behavioral therapy reigns as a leading treatment for anxiety. This modern approach focuses on the present, exploring symptoms instead of seeking causes. CBT employs both cognitive and behavioral therapies, working together to expose and replace dysfunctional core beliefs. These often trigger avoidant behavior and unnecessary survival instincts. With exposure therapy playing a significant role, CBT aims to break free from debilitating patterns and offer new perspectives to those struggling with anxiety. Think about the sage advice to get back on your horse after a fall. The rationale behind it is simple: substituting a bad experience with a good one to avoid developing a fear. Exposure therapy uses the same principle, snuffing out anxiety's fire one step at a time. Consider someone afraid of elevators. A therapist would begin by showing photos or discussing elevators, eventually encouraging the person to visit and ride them. Repeated exposure demonstrates they can safely use elevators, gradually neutralizing bad associations, a process known as extinction. But how does CBT help those suffering from generalized anxiety disorder, GAD? It creates a space for identifying anxiety triggers and discovering automatic worries. By objectively assessing catastrophic thoughts and offering plausible alternatives, patients learn to dig deep into their concerns, realizing how disproportionate they are. This revelation weakens the perceived threats, ultimately reducing anxiety. By addressing the here and now, cognitive behavioral therapy shifts the tide in anxiety treatment. With the help of exposure therapy, individuals develop the tools to face their fears head-on and gain control over their worries. Say goodbye to the stereotypical Freudian couch, there's a new era of therapy dawning. Enhancing exposure therapy. Exposure therapy is a widely successful method in treating various psychological conditions, with a 70% effectiveness rate. However, there are limitations. Its effects tend to be context-specific, can be reversed, and might not be applicable for unconscious memories. Fortunately, there are strategies to improve its efficacy, such as working in diverse situations, prioritizing post-session relaxation, and combining therapy with short-term drug treatments. The question remains, can we ever completely erase negative memories? Exposure therapy boasts an impressive 70% success rate in treating psychological conditions. However, it does come with a few caveats. For instance, the extinction of negative associations is often context-specific. This means that overcoming a fear in a therapist's office might not instantly translate to conquering that fear in the real world. Moreover, exposure therapy's effects can be reversed due to recency or traumatic events, leading to spontaneous recovery of old associations. Ivan Pavlov's famous experiment demonstrated how easily associations can resurface. Pavlov trained his dogs to associate the sound of a bell with food, making them salivate at the noise. After extinguishing this association by ringing the bell without providing food, the dog's salivation reaction returned when the bell rang after a break, showing that their brains had reverted to previous associations. Another challenge with exposure therapy is its ineffectiveness in addressing unconscious memories, as it only tackles associations consciously remembered. Fortunately, therapists can employ various strategies to make exposure therapy more durable and effective. One approach is conducting sessions in varied contexts, ensuring that the treatment is applicable to different situations. Additionally, allowing clients some downtime during the 4 to 6 hours after a session can solidify the effects of therapy, as ample rest and sleep enhance the brain's processing. Pairing exposure therapy with short-term drug treatments, such as administering cortisol before sessions, has proven beneficial in reducing anxiety. These methods help improve the extinction process, but it begs the question, is there a way to completely eliminate negative memories and associations from our minds? Rewriting traumatic memories. We all carry the weight of past experiences, some of which may be emotionally distressing or even traumatic. While the thought of erasing such memories might seem appealing, it is essential to recognize that these experiences shape who we are. Researchers have discovered that memories can be retrieved and updated with new information, allowing us to view them from a different perspective. By combining traditional therapeutic techniques with cutting-edge neuroscience, it may be possible to help those struggling with traumatic memories while preserving the vital historical record of our experiences. In Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, a heartbroken couple decides to erase each other from their memories, only to realize the importance of the moments they shared. This concept of erasing memories may appear far-fetched, but research has actually shown that it is possible to eliminate traumatic memories in rats. When the findings were published, the idea quickly became controversial, with critics arguing that erasing painful memories could lead to history repeating itself. However, modifying memories is not entirely new in the field of psychology. Techniques such as psychoanalysis aim to uncover repressed memories, while cognitive therapy encourages discussing and recontextualizing past experiences. The malleable nature of memory allows it to be reshaped with fresh information each time it's retrieved. This provides an opportunity for individuals suffering from traumatic memories to reshape their perception of those events. While it is challenging to entirely erase memories in humans, even when blocking protein synthesis in the brain, embracing the potential of neuroscientific research alongside traditional therapy methods can offer valuable tools for dealing with trauma. The dynamic nature of memory offers a path to heal past wounds without losing the essence of our experiences. By overcoming our hesitation to interfere with memory, we can help those suffering from traumatic memories while preserving the vital lessons learned from past events. By blending cutting-edge research with time-tested therapeutic techniques, healing from emotional pain becomes an achievable goal. Mastering anxiety with active coping. Anxiety disorders affect millions, but research has shown that individuals can become more resilient by utilizing active coping strategies. Such strategies include proactive avoidance, social engagement after traumatic events, breathing exercises, and meditation practices. Identifying and employing a range of personalized active coping techniques can help regulate anxiety and improve overall well-being. Millions lead fulfilling and adventurous lives despite the challenges posed by anxiety disorders. George Bonanno's research highlights that incorporating a variety of active coping strategies makes people resilient in managing their anxieties. Proactive avoidance can be beneficial, allowing individuals to regroup and recover from overwhelming situations without resorting to completely withdrawing. Active coping can also take the form of social engagement after experiencing traumatic events. An example of this is the aftermath of the World Trade Center attacks, where people were caught in a paralyzing news cycle. Breaking this cycle by meeting friends or attending work helped counter feelings of helplessness. Breathing exercises and meditation practices have gained popularity in recent times for their effectiveness in diffusing anxiety. Anxiety may cause rapid, shallow breathing, while intentionally taking deep, slow breaths can induce calmness. Meditation, with its different techniques such as focused attention and open monitoring, or mindfulness, teaches individuals to redirect their thoughts, observe their surroundings non-judgmentally, and detach from self-centered worries. By becoming less invested in personal thoughts, anxiety loses its persuasive power. It is essential to note that active coping strategies are subjective, and what works for one person may not be helpful for another. The key to managing anxiety lies in discovering and maintaining an assortment of personalized active coping techniques. Embracing this diverse approach grants individuals the skills necessary to navigate and overcome anxiety's challenges.
Anxiety has been a part of human experience since ancient times, and it continues to be a complex and misunderstood phenomenon. However, modern research has enabled us to gain a deeper understanding of the origin, manifestation, and treatment of anxiety disorders. With a continually evolving approach to diagnosis and the development of effective therapies such as cognitive behavioral therapy and exposure therapy, there is hope for those who suffer from anxiety disorders. Nevertheless, there are still limitations in these treatments and challenges to finding a lasting solution. Personalized active coping strategies can play a crucial role in managing anxiety and living a more fulfilling life. Overall, the combination of understanding the human brain and developing targeted therapies offers a promising route to addressing the ever-present challenge of anxiety.